Hey guys, welcome to Nerdly. Got Colin Kirby here.
Jeff Kirby here.
And guess what week it is?
It's Tolkien Week!
Woo! This is my favorite week of the year. Oh my god. I love it.
I love Tolkien Week. So we've done Star Wars Week, now we're doing Tolkien Week, and this is going to be different than the last time we did a Tolkien section. This is like an entire Tolkien-themed episode.
It's wonderful. So the last time we talked about Tolkien, Joff was kind of asking me questions, like things that I like about Tolkien, what my favorite moments were, just some random
knowledge,
right?
And
but
stuff.
This time we'll be delving into some really awesome stuff. We'll be talking about the books like the Hobbit, Silmarillion, and obviously the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But also, and one of the biggest topics we'll be discussing this week is the whole situation going on with Peter Jackson and the movies.
The Hobbit films.
Right. So we all love The Lord of the Rings, but when the Hobbit films released, there was a little bit of pushback. So
more than a little pushback. I mean, I'm surprised the guy didn't get freaking death threats, man.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, we'll talk about that, though. We'll get to it.
So this is the Nerdly Podcast. In case you haven't noticed, we've been doing this for 7 weeks now. We've been growing. Everybody has liked us. We've gotten lots of ratings and reviews. We've been consistently in the new and noteworthy. Life has been awesome.
We're loving it so far, and we haven't faltered at all. Like usually when we get into something like this, you can see kind of things falling, you can see things settling a little bit after all like the hype.
It's just been consistently growing and growing and growing, which is really cool.
So is our passion for it, and so has our excitement. Yeah.
So you can find us at nerdly.net, nrdly.net. Let's do our social rundown. Twitter
at Nerdly Podcast.
Instagram
at Nerdly Podcast.
Facebook.com/Nerdly
Podcast, all with no E.
And we're on Periscope as of the time of this recording. We are periscoping over on the side. Hi, Periscope people.
Thank you guys. You guys are awesome.
So you can follow us on Periscope. You can hit us up on Instagram, our YouTube channel, Nerdly Podcast, where we post videos of our interviews, videos of our podcasts, random videos of us discussing crap in the office. Also, when you get to our website, you can check out some of our partners. We are affiliate partners with Jinx and ThinkGeek.com. And you can also check out our friends at Saberforge. Pick up a really awesome custom lightsaber before Episode 7 comes out. And I know this is a Tolkien show, but I just want to mention one thing Star Wars related.
Okay, go for it.
We are going to be periscoping and recording video of our 6 a.m. excursion to our local Disney store outlet for Force Friday this Friday.
Oh my God, Force Friday is going to be fantastic.
The release, and we did a post here not too long ago about the leaks of the Hasbro toy catalog that hit the internet of all the sweet new Episode 7 toys, Micro Machines, the Build-A-Sabers, the new Force Effects sabers.
They're bringing back the Build-A-Saber kit. I love it. I got the original one like 10 years ago. I cannot wait.
And yes, they will have the Kylo Ren crossguard saber with the extendable saber sections that
that's going to be
sides. That's going to be so sweet.
That's going to be one that you can't just like flick your wrist and open up the first one. You have to
you have to like spin the whole sucker around.
I know, right? It's going to be awesome.
So yeah, we're going to be posting all of our excursion news and everything, and what we end up picking up at Force Friday this Friday. You can check it out, nerdly.net. You can check out our Twitter. You can check out our Facebook. You can check out our Instagram. We'll be doing videos, and we'll be live periscoping from the Disney store. I might hit up a Target later. Also might hit up a Barnes & Noble, because I do have to go pick up the new Star Wars Aftermath.
Ah, yes, Aftermath.
That's the one thing that I really want is a Star Wars Aftermath novel.
That is the start of our journey to The Force Awakens. That novel actually takes place right after Episode 6, like literally right after. It takes place in the prologue during the celebrations, like on Coruscant.
Yeah.
So it's picking up right afterwards. It's going to be fantastic. New characters, new planets.
Do we see Jakku in this? I forget.
I don't think so.
This doesn't have the Battle of Jakku in it. No. That's like one of the other novels will, because there's like 2 or 3 other novels. Like
this will be a trilogy.
Yeah.
One of the other novels or comics will. We know we'll be seeing the Battle of Jakku in Dice's Star Wars Battlefront, releasing November 17th. The Battle of Jakku will be a downloadable map with 2 battles starting on December 8th for the public and December 1st for those who pre-order. So get to GameStop, get to DICE's website, go anywhere you want to, pre-order and get that map.
Oh, I'm so excited for that game.
It's going to be sick.
So excited for that game. We've had a lot of stuff on nerdly.net. Just this week we were posting about, yesterday we had the Halo 5 Guardians cinematic opening.
With Nathan Fillion, of all people.
Nathan Fillion.
I love it.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so excited for that. Just talking about a lot of stuff. I'm actually working, if you stay tuned to the website, I'm actually finishing up Neil Stephenson's excellent Seven Eves novel right now as we speak. And I'm working on formulating my review for that, so you can be on the lookout for that. Also, we will do an extra episode at some point here with him, but I want to take a moment and introduce one of our newest staff members here at Nerdly. Lane Eady. Lane, you've been killing it. You're an awesome dude. Welcome to the Nerdly staff. We'll have you on the podcast here soon. I actually think we were going to do a game episode here coming up where we
I think we were, because Lane's actually an Xbox guy.
And you're a PlayStation guy.
I'm PlayStation,
you're
Sony
a PS4 apologist. He's an Xbox apologist. So we're going to fanboy all up in this piece, and it's going to be interesting and a lot of fun.
But no, welcome, Lane. You've been absolutely fantastic. I mean, your writing style is great. We all love the enthusiasm. You're just like us. You're a kindred spirit. So
we love you, buddy.
Everybody should be really excited to read Lane's stuff.
Yeah, he's a really good writer.
He's a freaking beast, man. I love it. Anyways, okay, so Tolkien Week.
Tolkien Week.
Woo!
All right, let's get the music all set up here.
Oh man.
Do you want to roll with Hobbit music or LOTR music this time? Last time we did it, we started off with the Shire.
Man,
what are your thoughts here?
I don't know, man.
Okay, so that's our first topic of discussion.
Okay.
Hobbit soundtracks or Lord of the Rings soundtracks. Now, Lord of the Rings soundtracks, we're talking about the complete recordings,
right?
Not the regular,
not the OST,
release.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, when it comes down to it, I think they're both different. Obviously, they're 2 different trilogies. But what I think was great, because they're both great soundtrack groupings from Howard Shore.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they do a really good job of portraying the atmosphere of each film. So Fellowship is very hopeful, very optimistic, and then it grows darker, kind of somber as the Fellowship breaks.
Yeah.
2 Towers is, somber and dark and foreboding throughout. Return of the King, same thing, and then it comes back into the light at the end. Hobbit, same kind of feel. But I think they both do a fantastic job of portraying the attitude of each of the films. But between the 2 trilogies, I believe that the Lord of the Rings soundtracks are superior. That is my opinion.
I mean, I would agree with that.
I think most everybody would agree. Now, it's all done by Howard Shore, and it's all fantastic.
Yeah, all of it's fantastic. I mean, it's like asking father to choose between his 2 favorite kids. Like, which one is your favorite?
I love you, Howard Shore.
Okay, so while we're on the subject of the movies, do you want to just dive into the thing that really pushed forward the idea of Tolkien Week this week?
I think so.
Yesterday we were having a huge discussion in the Nerdly HQ about why there's so much hatred towards Peter Jackson for the Hobbit films.
Now, this is hatred from the Tolkien faithful community. This is not just from people who saw Lord of the Rings and saw the Hobbit and were like, "Oh man, Peter Jackson, screw you, go kill yourself." This is from people like me.
This is like Tolkien fanatics, purists, where Lord of the Rings is the Bible, basically.
People like me who have been reading the books since they were kids, who saw the movies, who were excited for them, they've grown up with Tolkien as such a huge part of their lives, and they see the Hobbit movies. I saw the Hobbit movies, and I was thoroughly disappointed. They were good movies, but as an adaptation from the Hobbit book, I was very, very disappointed with what I had seen.
And I will agree with that. I see that. I understand that. I can agree with that. You want to know what the big issue I have is?
What's that?
The big issue that I have with that is that you have to walk into it expecting it to not be like the book. you have to walk into it expecting it to be different. It's another artist's interpretation, another artist's vision. It's like with the Harry Potter movies. I'm a huge Harry Potter nerd. And the movies, they retained the main plot elements from the books, but they changed enough to where it's different. It's like an alternate universe from the books.
And it's like an almost realistic interpretation of the books.
Well, you have to do that because you have so many different directors. You have so many different people that are, pushing what they feel, the book is about, that particular story is about. And when you have like a Tolkien series and you've got so much content where like there's all these things happening at the same time, okay, you want to do what you can to get as much as you can in.
Right.
And so it makes sense to me why he would do 3 movies. Do I think all 3 films needed to be 3 hours? No, not at all. But it makes sense to me why he would do a trilogy. Do I agree with it? No, I kind of wish he would have just stuck to the original book, left it at 3.5 hour long film and been done with it.
Now, see, that's where I totally get off the train with you. And like, I'm not going very far on the train with you there, but I totally get off at that point. I think that the 3 movie thing was just total bull crap. And that's personally my opinion. I think that 2 movies was really stupid. And I could maybe see 2 movies if he wanted to fit in as much content as he could and just couldn't simply do it in one. But 3 movies was absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary. I feel like every little bit of The Hobbit you could have put into one, like 4.5 even hour-long movie, and people would have been totally happy with it.
Okay, I think the vast majority of people would have been happy with it, but the Tolkien purists would have been happy with it. That's the big thing. That's the kicker right here. Now, the vast majority of people were happy with the Hobbit films as they stand.
Honestly, from what I know, from people that I've talked to, they were very disappointed. Even people who aren't Tolkien fanatics were pretty disappointed.
And see, I don't understand that because I enjoyed them.
They went and saw the Lord of the Rings films. They have since, a lot of them have since read the Lord of the Rings books, read The Hobbit. Even some of them, kudos to them, read the Silmarillion, which I applaud anybody who will go out and do that.
Silmarillion, the sacred text of nerds.
God bless the Silmarillion. It's my favorite book. But anyways, I know people who went and saw The Hobbit, so excited, so happy, full of life, only to be crushed. And
I think it's a little harsh.
No, honestly, I know a lot of people who were very disappointed who weren't even close to my level of Tolkien fanaticism, and I was very surprised at that.
I mean, look, did they leave a lot to be desired? Yes.
Well, even reviews were mixed for all of them. Lord of the Rings, the 3 trilogy films got raving reviews all around. They're all in the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah. Return of the King has like a 98. And the Hobbit films...
Is it that high?
Yeah, not even kidding.
Wow.
But the Hobbit films were all mixed reviews. All of them.
Yeah.
And I think the quality just went down. Because...
Well, there was a lot to live up to.
Well, there was, for sure. And I think the first mistake of Peter Jackson was trying to fit in all the extra stuff and trying to make it a prequel to Lord of the Rings, because it didn't need to be a believable prequel to Lord of the Rings. It didn't need to connect. Tolkien didn't feel that it needed to connect. He was okay with how different The Hobbit was. It was in the same world. It even used a couple of the same characters from Lord of the Rings, but it was different. It was his own thing. It had a different atmosphere. It had a different feel to it. It was a lot happier, a lot more lighthearted.
Well, it was a kid's story. It was originally written as a children's story.
And there were a few moments in like in an unexpected journey where I felt that it was a faithful recreation, like in Goblin Town. I felt like the kind of goofiness and stuff was a cool recreation of those moments in the books or in the book. But and even the riddles in the dark with Gollum, great. But then there were other scenes, like as soon as they get out of there, it's in the chapter Out of the Frying Pan into the Fire, where they climb up the trees and the goblins start lighting the trees on fire. And they have that huge confrontation with Azog, the Defiler, who in the books was dead like 80 years ago. And, frickin' Thorin has this giant Aragorn moment. They basically made Thorin Aragorn, which was, again, a huge mistake. But it was just so many changes that were unnecessary.
The biggest unnecessary change that I loathed was the addition of Tariel. And I understand why she was added, but it's like, okay, see, I can handle adding in the extra stuff. You know, like the whole Dol Guldur thing. I can handle all of that, all right? Because a lot of that was stuff that was happening right around that same time period anyway. You know, you just didn't hear, but, you know, Gandalf goes off in the book, and you have no clue where he goes. Well, you know, he shows you where Gandalf goes. Okay, so that makes sense. When you start adding characters that were not originally in the book.
And not only adding them, but creating a romantic storyline.
Like just something completely false.
Yeah.
Just fabricating something.
A love triangle with an elf, with a sylvan elf, a lowly sylvan elf, a royal dwarf, and Legolas, who is a royal Sindar elf. I mean, like, what the crap, man? That, number one, that doesn't fit at all with Tolkien's mythos. Dwarves and elves did not like each other, let alone wanted to screw each other.
Gimli and Legolas
are not huge
Rings.
Fans of each other.
They're not huge fans of each other, but they eventually
exactly. And there's a reason for that too. In the First Age, Thranduil, the Elven King, was actually living in Beleriand with the highest royalty of the elves in Middle Earth, a king known as Thingol.
Yeah.
He was the Grey King. And he had the largest kingdom in Beleriand at the time. This is a land that is to the west of Middle Earth that is now sunken by the time of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. It's gone. It's ancient history, essentially. And this king was very powerful, and towards the end of the First Age, he had commissioned a grouping of dwarves from the Blue Mountains of Middle Earth to create a necklace for his jewels. They were known as the Nauglamir, and he commissioned the dwarves to build a holding for these jewels, and he created a necklace. And so while they're making this the entire time, the dwarves actually, as we all know them, they are greedy. They love their gold. They love their jewels, all that crap. They fall prey to these jewels, and they become sick and obsessed with them. So by the time they finish them, you know, the king, Elu Thingol, he comes down, he wears the necklace, he's like, cool, that's great, here's your payment, goodbye. And the dwarves suddenly betray him. They're like, there ain't no freaking way.
Yeah.
These are ours, we made them. Mm-hmm. And Thingol is basically, screw you, and so the dwarves actually just slaughter him right there. They slaughter him there, and they go into his city and burn the city. They rape and pillage and do all their thing. And from that point on, the elves and the dwarves hate each other. And Thranduil especially, he dealt with that. That was his home. He experienced that. And so when the dwarves come to him, he's like, what the crap, guys?
Yeah.
You do realize I have every right in the world to slaughter you.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And so, you know, when Thranduil comes over, Legolas comes over. Legolas is born in Middle-earth, so he's born under that hatred that Thranduil has.
That's what I mean. He's just a product of his upbringing.
Exactly. And Thranduil's not exactly the kindest of fathers, which if you read the Silmarillion, you will understand why, and you will like him a little bit more. But anyways,
so, nerdly homework, go read the Silmarillion.
Yes, please. And the love triangle just does not fit in the mythos, and that is something Tolkien would have loathed.
Oh,
because, again, it honestly felt like pandering to the culture. Because nowadays...
Which makes sense. Culturally, that makes sense. So I can see why he would have added Tariel. Okay?
Because if he
you got to bring the chicks in.
Well, and if he didn't have a strong female character, he probably would have gotten death threats. Let's be honest here.
I mean, yeah, it's, culturally he probably would have.
And that's another thing between
But I don't agree with it.
Right. And that's another thing between the two trilogies is you look, 10, 15 years ago, actually now it'd probably be closer to 20 years ago when they started.
It was about 15 years.
Well, when they started making the films, the Lord of the Rings films. So it's closer to about 20. And it shows the difference in our culture between now and then. Back then, they wouldn't have done that. Obviously, now there are strong female characters in the Lord of the Rings. And Arwen, Éowyn.
I don't have an issue with strong female characters. What I have an issue with is putting something where it doesn't belong.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is like 20 years ago, if there weren't strong female characters like that, they probably wouldn't have put it in there just to pander to the crowd, because they didn't really care.
Now, I mean, you know, there is something to be said for taking out Glorfindel and replacing him with Arwen.
Well, and that was a minor change that I think was was needed because there were just so many characters.
Yeah.
And at one point in The Lord of the Rings, you just have to say, okay, there's just too damn many characters in here.
You just have to double up.
I mean, pardon my French, but oh my goodness. There are so many characters in there that if you were to put every single one of them into the film, number one, the casting would be just ridiculous. I would hate to be that casting director. Number two, watching that film, it would be like watching Game of Thrones on crack.
Oh, yeah, no.
Essentially, with all the characters in there.
Yeah.
I mean, you have like the Great Company. There's 37 Rangers, including Elladan and Elrohir, the twin sons of Elrond. You got Prince Imrahil from Dol Amroth, the soldiers of Pelargir. There's just way too many people. So I understand things like that. But in the Hobbit trilogy, it just felt there were so many unnecessary changes and so many weird scenes that really didn't feel right. They felt really shoehorned.
Okay, so give me an example of one.
In Battle of Five Armies, actually, which I was watching a few weeks ago, Legolas and Tauriel go on this weird, like, scouting mission out to up to the mountains, the White Mountains, up to the top.
Yeah.
Like way far in the north of Middle-earth. Mm-hmm. And up at the top is an area it's a stronghold called Gundabad.
Yeah.
Gundabad is where the first dwarves actually came to life in Middle-earth. They are the product of one dwarf named Durin the Deathless. He was an almost immortal dwarf. He was the first one that ever existed. And that Gundabad is a sacred place for them, for the dwarves. And at some point in the distant past, it was taken over by the orcs of the north and by Sauron. Well, not necessarily by Sauron, but the orcs of the north, yeah. And this started the War of the Dwarves and Orcs. And this is just centuries of war that takes place between the two. And so they own this sacred land of the dwarves. And at some point in Battle of Five Armies, Legolas and Tauriel go up north to scout out this stronghold. And number one, it kind of feels like when Frodo and Gollum and Sam are at the gates of Minas Morgul in Return of the King. Mm-hmm. And the gates open, and they see like the force of Sauron, or the Morgul force, marching off to Minas Tirith. It kind of feels like that, which I hate, because it's like they tried to recreate their own scene again, which is really weird.
It just seems really lazy.
But then Legolas and Tauriel have this weird, like, humanizing moment. Up until this point, Legolas is a total douchebag, like 100%.
Yeah,
and I kind of like it.
Kind of a D.
And I kind of like it, which at this point, too, Orlando Bloom looks way older than he did in Lord of the Rings, obviously, and it just looked really strange. But he has this weird moment where he's talking about his mother dying, and it just feels like this weird, normal action movie humanizing moment, something you would have in like a Transformers film, or like in any action film where one of the protagonists lost their mother in the distant past or something.
You mean every protagonist in every action film ever made?
Pretty much. It really, it just felt really weird, and it didn't feel Tolkien at all.
Yeah.
Because no character in there is that, I say, one-dimensional, I guess. Legolas was very predictable in the series, and I did not care for it at all.
Okay, so all of that being said, personally, I don't necessarily feel like the hatred and the loathing and the vitriol that's been spewed at Peter Jackson, as we affectionately call him here in the Nerdly HQ, P-Jax.
Jeter Paxson.
I don't feel like it's necessarily... I don't. Justified is not really the right word.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't think it is either. Again, I think that's part of the culture. Is like if you don't like something, the person who created it deserves to kill themselves.
I don't know. No, it was not entirely faithful. No, it didn't. A lot of stuff did not make sense. No, he should not have just created this new character that has nothing to do with the Tolkien mythos and threw in there a weird, even attempt at trying to be canonical and adherence to the canonical mythology of Middle-earth romance. He didn't need to add all these other things, but I don't necessarily think that they warranted, the fact that he did those, I don't think they necessarily warranted all the hatred that he's gotten for it.
Well, see, here's the thing, too, and I think I talked about this yesterday, but I just touched on it. My opinion on it is that it kind of ruins the books in a sense, it kind of ruins Tolkien in a sense for a lot of people, because they go see the movies and let's say they saw Lord of the Rings, never read the Lord of the Rings books, but they went and saw the Lord of the Rings films, and, they just never got around to reading the books, and then they went and saw the Hobbit films, and, they were expecting something awesome, and they see it, and they like it, they think it's good, so they decide to go ahead and read the Hobbit, read the Lord of the Rings. Let's say they go read the Hobbit first. They open it up, and they're like, what the crap? This is a children's book. This is way different. There's no Tauriel, there's no this, there's no that, there's no this. And so there, you've got a completely wrong view of The Hobbit for somebody or several people. And then, okay, let's say they stick it out and they finish the book and they love it. They think, okay, well, the movie did a lot of weird things. Okay, let's try The Lord of the Rings. They open The Lord of the Rings, they're going to go, what is this crap?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is not the easiest thing to push
It is
through.
so difficult. I don't know how I got through it in like second, third grade. But they would open up The Lord of the Rings and they would think, oh my God, this guy was so bored because there's just so much content. And Tolkien is such a descriptive writer. He'll take like 5 pages just to describe one city.
He's like he is the Dragon Ball Z of the fantasy genre.
Basically, he's George R.R. Martin before Martin ever existed. And Martin acknowledges that even. Well,
yeah, duh. I mean, every fantasy writer is Tolkien before, whatever. That statement could apply to just about every major fantasy writer.
Well, yes, but Tolkien and Martin are both very descriptive in their characters and their settings. Yeah. And so, it kind of ruins the books for people. They would open up The Lord of the Rings and they would expect the story to flow like it does in the films, and it doesn't. For those of you who haven't read the Lord of the Rings books, they do not flow like they do in the movies.
No.
It is not just, Fellowship of the Ring, all this stuff is happening, all this stuff is happening. Fellowship flows kind of nicely. I mean, that's about a normal kind of flow for a book. Two Towers and Return of the King is where that's where things get hairy. Because you have Frodo and Sam who split off and go with Gollum to Mordor. You have what's left of the Fellowship. In Two Towers, you have like Merry and Pippin. You have Gandalf, Legolas, and Gimli. So the way Tolkien does it is he splits it all off into separate, quote, books. So you have one whole book describing what happens with what's left of the Fellowship, and they go to Rohan, the Battle of Helm's Deep, in the Two Towers, and that's all separate. And then you have what happens with Sam and Frodo. You have Sam and Frodo meeting Gollum, you have them. All this stuff is happening parallel, but Tolkien's telling it all in different chunks. And you even have, like in Return of the King, how Frodo and Sam go into Shelob's lair. Yeah, that's part of the Two Towers book.
Yeah.
Half of the stuff in Return of the King, the movie, takes place in the Two Towers book. And then the same thing happens again in Return of the King. Mm-hmm. Return of the King, then you also have the Scouring of the Shire at the very end. After the ring is destroyed, Sauron's defeated, Aragorn's coronated.
Now, to preface this explanation of the Scouring of the Shire, something needs to be said. So if you watched the extended edition of the Two Towers, or no, it was the Return of the King, in the very beginning, Gandalf the White and Theoden and Legolas and Aragorn and Gimli and
Merry and Pippin are already there.
Yeah, Merry and Pippin are already there. They go to
what's left of Isengard
and to meet with Saruman. And Saruman actually ends up dying. Grima ends up dying. They get the Palantir and they move on. In the book, he never died.
Well, no, in the book, he doesn't die until later.
Yeah. No, but at that point in the book, he doesn't die.
Right. Now, in the Scouring of the Shire, the whole storyline is that that Saruman, left alive after his defeat, moves on to the Shire and allies himself with goblins and orc men, half-orc men, and brigands, and takes over the Shire. Mm-hmm. And so the hobbits come back, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, they come back and they find their home destroyed. And basically, through a series of events, Grima Wormtongue and Saruman both are dead. The hobbits take back their land. And so it feels very anticlimactic, but it was to show that, evil never truly goes away. Even when you feel that you've won the battle, when you've climbed the mountain, there's still evil in the world that you have to defeat. Yeah. And I thought it was wonderful, but as a film, you can't go into that.
I mean, there's only so many endings you can have in a movie. I mean, Return of the King, as it stands, has 47 endings?
No, this isn't The Witcher Wild Hunt, okay? But they did pay. They did
it seriously
pay
felt like
a
choose your own adventure book where there's 16 different ways you can end this thing.
Well, and that was us. I was watching the special features on the Return of the King extended edition, which as a kid I watched the special features of the Lord of the Rings films almost more than the films themselves. And there was an interview with Elijah Wood, and he's backstage at the Grammys or something, or at the Oscars, and he's talking to Jack Nicholson, and Jack Nicholson's like, "So did you die or something? What happened at the end of that movie?" And Frodo starts talking about him going off to the Undying Lands and all that stuff, and going off to the Grey Havens, leaving with Gandalf.
I can only imagine the confusion on Jack Nicholson's face.
And Nicholson's like, "What the crap are you talking about?" He's like, "I left a freaking half an hour before that. I thought you just threw the ring in the volcano and died." And he's like, "There were too many endings, man." It's like, okay, yes, there were, but you gotta finish up. You have so many storylines.
You gotta tie up all those loose ends at some point.
And Scouring the Shire was a big loose end that they just didn't even want to deal with, which I understand.
Yeah.
But when you read the books, then you're like, "What the crap is this? What is going on?"
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, back to my original point. With Tom Bombadil added in and the Grey Company, I feel like the books are a lot meatier and they have a lot more to enjoy. However, the movies they tend to ruin it.
Yeah.
People who see the movies or see the Hobbit movies are going to be really weirded out if they ever try to read Tolkien. Because Tolkien, I mean, he was a professor of Anglo-Saxon at Oxford for decades.
And the guy was a master linguist. I mean,
he was
a genius, really.
He really was. And his work precedes him, or his work showcases that so well. So if you don't like difficult things, it's written almost in Old English. It's written almost as an Old English epic, which is funny because he intended it as kind of an English mythology, but he takes so much from Finnish and Norse mythology. It's really funny.
And speaking of Finnish mythology, there's a book that's being released posthumously.
It was a short story that he had written in 1914 when he was actually at the war front of the Great War. He fought in World War I. And it was a story that he had written based upon the old Finnish epic known as the Kalevala. That is an old Finnish epic tale. And he wrote his own story called The Story of Kullervo. And that was a very dark mythological tale.
It was really kind of the first anything related to Middle-earth.
Well, 1914 is also when he started writing the Silmarillion, but he got into the story of Kullervo and then got to the climax where Kullervo...
He never finished it.
Yeah, he gets to the climax where Kullervo's fighting an evil wizard, and then he just stops, and that's it. And then the next you see is the Silmarillion when he starts that. And Kullervo actually made it into the Silmarillion as a character known as Turin Turambar, which is kind of his version of a Greek tragedy. So it's still quality, but that book will be releasing on October 27th, I believe, at Barnes & Noble, at your local bookstores. So I would definitely get in on that. Please, 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 because that's going to be a fantastic read. Anything by Tolkien is wonderful, so we'll take whatever we can get, even after his death. Rest in peace.
Anything. So anyways, back to the original topic. So you don't like the Hobbit films because you feel like they ruined the books for people who might be just now getting into the books.
I do. I mean, I've had a lot of people come to me and they're like, "Why are the movies so different than the books? Or why is the Hobbit movie trilogy a trilogy instead of just one? It's one book that's 350 pages." And I'm like, I freaking know. Do you want to sit down? Please, I can write you a book.
No, what is it? Somebody did a fan edit. What is it? The Tolkien edit?
The Hobbit, the Tolkien edit. Yep.
Yeah.
Somebody cut together all three of the Hobbit films, cut out all the bullcrap, all the Tauriel love story, most of the Dol Guldur stuff.
The actual battle with Smaug in...
Somebody cut down the battle with Smaug and cut it down to what it was in the book, which was just an encounter. Cut down the Battle of Five Armies itself, cut it down to a reasonable time. cut out certain characters completely. I think Legolas only has like a couple of cameos in the Tolkien edit. And it's
Which
about
I'm okay with.
4.5 hour long film, and it's fantastic.
Where can you find that? Is it just like BitTorrent or just Google like the Hobbit Tolkien edit or something?
Let me pull up the link here because I actually can't remember. Because I know the guy actually put it up on like torrent sites just for everybody,
just to kind of get it out there. Okay, so
yes, it's the website is thetolkieneditor.wordpress.com.
Thetolkieneditor.wordpress.com.
I'm sorry, there's no the. It's just tolkieneditor.wordpress.com.
Tolkieneditor.wordpress.com.
And this guy was improving it for months, even after he put it out there. He would take it down, fix the resolution, add a couple more scenes, maybe take away a couple more scenes as people,
it's just kind of a labor of love,
right?
Essentially,
and this guy is fantastic. Wonderful job. Nobody's even come to him with like copyright issues. I love it,
which is awesome.
And he's gotten like national praise for it on IO9, Polygon, everywhere. So it's a guy after my own heart. God bless you. No, but my thing with the Hobbit
did
films,
you enjoy the Hobbit films at all?
I enjoyed An Unexpected Journey, and I enjoyed in Desolation of Smaug being able to see Thranduil, the Elven King, and Legolas again, and being able to see, the culture of the elves. That was my favorite part, because the elves have always been my favorite part of Tolkien's writings. Being able to see Thranduil was just absolutely perfection for me. I believe Lee Pace as Thranduil was the best part of those films. Lee Pace as Thranduil and Luke Evans as Bard the Bowman were both.
Yeah,
were
Luke
just
Evans
fantastic.
was pretty awesome
Now
as Bard.
Martin Freeman as Bilbo is in his own category by himself because he was perfect.
Absolutely perfect.
He's like a given, just absolutely perfect casting choice.
And I'm sorry, but Benedict Cumberbatch can do no wrong.
Oh yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch
he was brilliant. You've seen the motion capture video of him doing the motion capture for Smaug.
It's the greatest.
Absolutely brilliant.
Like he's a guy after Andy Serkis's own heart, because Andy Serkis was in charge of part of the shooting.
He was second unit director.
He was second unit director for the entire shooting of the trilogy. So he worked a lot with Benedict Cumberbatch, and he was able to learn a lot from who some would call the master of motion capture. He did King Kong. He did Gollum to amazing effect. He's been in a lot.
Caesar from new Planet of the Apes films.
Fantastic as Caesar, I thought. Just wonderful.
Andy Serkis is just a genius.
He really is, and he's put out even a few books about working on the Lord of the Rings films and his personal views on Tolkien. Great reads for anybody who wants to check them out.
So
as going back to your question, I enjoyed An Unexpected Journey, and I enjoyed a lot of parts of Desolation of Smaug and a few parts of Battle of Five Armies.
But as a whole,
I was so disappointed. As a whole. It's not that I'm mad, I'm just disappointed. And
now,
I know
as
that sounds
as
like
a whole, I'm not angry at you. I'm just disappointed.
And yes, Peter Jackson, I am disappointed in you. I'm sorry. I don't hate you. I don't want you to kill yourself. I'm disappointed because
you have broken my heart one too many times, PJ.
You did break my heart, because as a kid who never really had friends and grew up with Tolkien as like my best friend,
Jeter Paxson, it's over between us.
And the Lord of the Rings films even brought a whole new life to me. And seeing the Hobbit films was like, it crushed me. It really did. Honestly, I walked out of the first film like trying to justify it in my mind. Like, okay, there's a lot that was changed, but it's okay. It's all right. We got this. I walked out of Desolation of Smaug like, wow, there was a lot that was changed. That was really unnecessary. But you know what? Big finish, Battle of Five Armies. We can do this. Walked out of Battle of Five Armies like, oh my God, I can't believe what happened.
I can't believe I paid for that.
I couldn't. Honestly, the one thing that made it all worth it was at the end of the film. I'm sitting there with my girlfriend, Emily, at the end of the film, and she's just kind of looking at me like, what'd you think? And I'm about to start talking, and I hear Billy Boyd's song, The Last Goodbye, come on over the credits, and I just kind of had to put my head in my hands for a minute, because that song hit me so hard. It was like a huge era, an age of my life gone now. And that song, no matter how much crap was in Battle of Five Armies or Desolation or Unexpected Journey, that song still got to me, and it perfectly captured the journey throughout the years.
So moving on to a new topic. There were 6 individual songs for each one of the individual Tolkien films. See, it started off, if you want to go chronologically in order of release, Fellowship of the Ring, May It Be by Enya.
Right.
The Two Towers, Gollum Song by Emiliana Torrini. Return of the King,
Into the West
by Annie Lennox. And then you had
Song of the Lonely Mountain by
Song of the Lonely Mountain.
Neil Gaiman, I think?
No, Neil Gaiman. He's the guy who wrote Sandman. He's the author.
Yeah.
No, it was something. It was the Song of the Lonely Mountain. It was all right. And then let's see. What was the song?
Neil Finn. I'm sorry.
What was the song of Desolation of Smaug?
Oh, it was I See Fire by Ed Sheeran.
That's right. I See Fire by Ed Sheeran, and then Billy Boyd's song,
The Last Goodbye.
The Last Goodbye. Out of all 6 of those songs, which one is your favorite?
Can I pick 2?
You can only pick one.
Only pick one? Oh, come on, man.
You can only pick one.
No, I don't think I can pick one.
You can only pick one.
Well, okay. Can I rank them?
You can rank them. Okay, let's rank them.
All right. My least favorite, Song of the Lonely Mountain from Unexpected Journey.
I agree with that.
So there's 6. Okay, so at number 6, Song of the Lonely Mountain by Neil Finn off of the Unexpected Journey soundtrack. Number 5, I would have to put Gollum's Song, Emiliana Torrini.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a slight against the song. I love it, but the others I just love more.
Yeah.
Number 4, probably I See Fire from Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
Number 3, May It Be by Enya.
Okay.
Number 2.
And this is where it gets difficult for you.
Number 2 would have to be The Last Goodbye.
And number 1 is Into the West.
Number 1 is Into the West. And that is so difficult. I would consider all 3 of those top ones, I would consider them all tied. But since I have to pick one here, it has to be Into the West. Because, number 1, Return of the King was the first PG-13 film I had ever seen. It was the first one I had ever seen in theaters, too. So it was like freaking awesome. But Into the West perfectly captures my heart. I don't know why. It's just the voice, the melody, the lyrics, everything just captures me.
Anything about that song.
I think it's absolutely beautiful.
I don't know if it's because I don't like Annie Lennox's voice now or what. I'm not a big fan of that song.
Yeah, it's all right.
Lyrically, I like it, just not musically.
You might like the Peter Hollins version because he did an acapella version.
Yeah, I've heard the Peter Hollins version.
I think it was with Taylor Davis too.
Was it with Taylor Davis?
It was.
I can't remember.
Yeah, so shout out to Peter Hollins real quick.
And Taylor Davis.
And Taylor Davis. You guys did fantastic Lord of the Rings music.
Okay, so my list is not as difficult to figure out as yours. Number 1, May It Be by Enya. Just because I feel Enya perfectly captures the spirit of the Tolkien universe, the Middle-earth universe, particularly the Shire, which is why that song works more for the first film than any of the others.
Real quick, can I actually switch to? Can I put Last Goodbye at number 3 and Enya at number 2? Because Enya does sing in Elvish, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It hits me.
And okay, so can I put Aniron in there too?
No, it's end credit song only.
Oh crap!
Yeah, because otherwise I would have put Aniron and In Dreams on mine.
Yeah. Okay, so anyways, May It Be by Enya. Number 2, Gollum Song by Emiliana Torrini. I don't know what it is. I love the way she sings, the melody. I love it lyrically. I love it musically. It's just, I mean, like you said, it's got, because when you leave off at the Two Towers, there's this sense of foreboding where it's like there's like this tense build up into what you know is going to be the final act where like everything goes down.
Right. And like while they've
musically it creates that vibe. It accentuates that vibe.
And while they won at Helm's Deep in the end of Two Towers, there's really no victory for Frodo and Sam at the end of Two Towers too.
No, it's just everything just gets harder.
It does.
Number 3, I would have to put I See Fire. Now this is favorites. So number 3, I'd have to put I See Fire. Number 4, I'd have to put Billy Boyd's song.
Really? So you'd put I See Fire over Last Goodbye?
Because I prefer Ed Sheeran's voice over Billy Boyd's.
I'd say for the tone of the film, Ed Sheeran's voice was perfect for Desolation of Smaug.
And I love that song, like the way it was written and everything. I mean, Ed Sheeran's just
great.
He's a master songwriter for something like that.
And he wrote it himself. He's a Tolkien fan through and through, and he wrote that all himself.
He wrote it in a day.
Yeah,
was it like 24 hours?
Well,
they showed him they showed him a rough cut of the film, and he was like, okay, I've got something. Let's go do this. And they just like threw him in a studio, and he recorded it. In 24 hours.
And Peter Jackson, the way that he got Ed Sheeran to do the film, he didn't even know who he was, but he heard his daughter listening to Ed Sheeran, and he's like, who is that? And she told him about him and let him listen to the music, and he's like, okay, yeah, I got this.
His daughter, who also has a cameo in every Lord of the Rings film.
Yes, both his kids.
Yeah, both his kids, which is awesome.
I would love to be those kids.
Jeter Paxson, best dad ever.
Until the Hobbit films.
Shut up, dude.
Sorry.
They're not that bad. They're not that bad.
See, the way I see it, when you have to say they're not that bad when it comes to Lord of the Rings, like when it comes to Tolkien films, when you have to say they're not that bad, they're that bad, all right?
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of like when you have to explain the punchline of your own joke.
When you have to justify an action, or when you have to justify what you're saying, you probably shouldn't be saying or doing it.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, so what would be your last one?
My least favorite?
Oh, yeah, no, it's Into the West, right?
No. The least favorite is Song of the Lonely Mountain.
By Neil Finn, yeah.
Into the West is right above that. Although, okay, so if we're just talking about songs in the films, period, Song of the Lonely Mountain that Richard Armitage sings.
Oh, yeah, that they all sing.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I just don't like the end credits version.
Yes.
It's a very odd version.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this, and we're going to do 2 separate ones because they're 2 separate trilogies.
Okay.
Favorite scene from the original trilogy and favorite scene from the Hobbit trilogy.
Oh, you're a terrible person.
It pains me to even say the Hobbit trilogy, but you know what? We'll go with it.
Oh, no. Favorite scene
from the original. All right. Since there are 3 films, you don't have to pick one from each, but your top 3 favorite.
No, I was just no. I mean, I'm going to give you my all-time favorite, and I'm going to give you from both trilogies. It's going to take me a second to think. Do you already have yours picked out? Kind of.
See, I would have to do like 2 from each.
Okay, so do your 2 from each, and I'll think about mine.
Okay, so my 2 favorites. The first one is from The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. And it's kind of a joint scene. It's at the very end, in the breaking of the Fellowship, when they're in the forest and Boromir is dying and Frodo is leaving, parallel. When Boromir is dying and, Aragorn has killed Lurtz and he's helping him pass, and he finally admits, I would have followed you, my brother, my captain, my king. And he departs, along with Frodo leaving and Sam going with him. Just the line itself of like, go back, Sam, I'm going to Mordor alone. Says, of course you are, and I'm coming with you. Like that scene, it actually, like, all of you guys can comment, you guys can make fun of me as much as you want. I cry every freaking time during that whole last bit. It's so perfect. And I think that captures the books more than any scene in any of the 6 films ever. And I love that. Now, my second favorite is one that wasn't in the books, but it was actually adapted from the final chapter of Return of the King, when Frodo moves on to from the Grey Havens into the Undying Lands, and it describes what he sees there. But it's when Gandalf and Pippin are actually in Minas Tirith, and like the orcs are beating on the gates, and they're sitting there waiting, and Pippin just kind of resigns himself and says, I didn't think it would end this way. Gandalf says, end? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one that we all must take, This is the gray rain curtains of this world are rolled back, and it all turns to silver glass, and then you see it. Pippin's like, what do you see? He says, white shores, and beyond, a far green country, under a swift sunrise. The Pippin just kind of looks up at him crying. He says, well, that's not so bad. No, it isn't. And they have that moment, and then they're brought back. The ogres are slamming on the gates, and they're thinking, all right, this is it. We're ready. So those two scenes are just perfect. And a runner-up would be when Frodo finally does leave for the Grey Havens, or for the Undying Lands. I'm sorry, the Grey Havens is the port. When he finally leaves for the Undying Lands, that's my third favorite. But I'll let you do your original trilogy, and then we'll go on to The Hobbit, if you have it.
I have to agree with you.
Really?
I have to agree with you. I as you've been talking, I've been sitting here trying to rack my brain, and I mean, there's really no other combination of scenes that I would agree with more.
Man, and I've got a tear rolling down my face.
Yeah.
Get all misty out there.
It's a little dusty in here.
Man. Need to call a cleaning lady.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so you agree
The Hobbit.
with me. Okay.
So The Hobbit.
Yeah, I'll let you go first. I talked that whole time. I want you to go first on this.
Okay, so from the Hobbit trilogy, one of my favorite sequences was from the first film. Probably when they're all sitting around the table and eating, all the dwarves get there and they're singing the song and everything is crazy and everything. And Bilbo's like, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, don't do that.
Oh, and the song too.
Yeah, that's
what Mr. Baggins hates.
I grew up watching the animated Rankin and Bass version.
Still love it.
That was always one of my favorite parts.
Yep.
Was the whole singing and everything of that sequence. So I really loved how they brought that in and brought that kept the song and kept the goofiness of it.
Oh, I
loved that.
See, it started out so perfectly. It started out wonderfully. And then it just declined from there. It all went down from there.
Probably my second favorite sequence was when Bilbo goes into the treasure cave and meets Smaug.
Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman both. Now, we can attribute
exchange. Oh my God.
And we can contribute their chemistry to the BBC show Sherlock that Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman both star in.
Which I'm sure we'll do a Sherlock episode at some point.
Oh, please, dear God. I finally got Dave into Sherlock, and we're loving it.
Dave is our boss.
And our father.
More our boss.
Well, yes. But okay. Those are two perfect scenes. I love it.
All right.
And I would mostly agree with you on the first one, but then extend it really to the point where they are also telling the story of what happened with Smaug.
Yeah.
And they sing the song of the Lonely Mountain.
The Lonely Mountain. Yeah, see, I'm including all that because that all kind of, it's all one sequence, really.
Okay, good. Now, my second favorite part is, this one's kind of a small one. But, I'm so hooked on the character of Thranduil and the elves that my second favorite would have to be when the dwarves are brought in to meet Thranduil. And you meet him for the first time, and he is this pissed off, tortured, shut down spirit. He's someone who's seen so much and been through so much that he just hates everything. And you understand why if you read the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
But Lee Pace perfectly captures his history and his story as a person and his pain. And I love that. The exchange between him and the dwarves is just absolutely perfect. But then I would also agree with you with the Smaug exchange. Obviously.
The Smaug exchange is the best.
It's beautiful.
Hands down, it is the best.
The chemistry between the two and Benedict Cumberbatch's voice as Smaug, just how he perfectly understands that dragons in Tolkien's universe are not these creatures that just happen to be able to talk or something.
No, they have
that they are
minds,
spirits, that they're beings.
Yeah. Just like you or me.
Right. Smaug can hold a full conversation. I mean, freaking
and he does. It's glorious.
Yeah, freaking Glaurung, the father of dragons in the First Age, was able to hold a full conversation with Turin Turambar and put a spell over somebody.
Yeah.
Dragons are a lot more than just animals that breathe fire in Tolkien's universe, and that's what I love. But okay, I think we have those.
Did you ever see the interview that Stephen Colbert did with Smaug?
Oh, it was fantastic. Stephen Colbert is a wonderful person. You know, my favorite thing I've ever seen from him is when he sent in a video question to Peter Jackson, and he pulls out his map of Middle-earth and everything in his Silmarillion book and his whiteboard, and he's diagramming the different cultures of the elves, and he's asking Tolkien or Jackson if he's going to show the different cultures of the elves that exist in Thranduil's kingdom, of Sindar, the royal Sindar blood, the Nondor, the Avari, the Sylvan elves. You know, it's so freaking funny. And he gets like belligerent about it too.
I would love to see you and Colbert go in a nerd off.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I know it would never happen. But Stephen Colbert, if you happen to be watching in Minnesota or something somewhere.
If Stephen Colbert happens to ever listen to this, I think this needs to be our ultimate goal with Nerdly, is to get this episode in the hands of Colbert, and let's challenge him to a Tolkien nerd off.
I think this can happen. This should happen, and we're like, go out on Twitter, on Facebook, everything.
Okay, we'll post something on the website this week once we figure out exactly how we're going to make this happen, and we will make this happen.
It is a social media blitzkrieg.
A Colbert Kirby nerd off, Tolkien nerd off.
You know, if that were to actually happen, I just might die.
I think I'd pee my pants.
I would die of excitement. I think it would be the funniest thing on the planet.
You know, he starts his, The Tonight Show? He starts it, or The Late Show or whatever?
Yeah.
He starts that here soon. We should totally try and get on,
which is good because I can tell he's been bored this whole time because he's been doing a show on like public access somewhere in Michigan.
Which is awesome.
It's so funny, but I can tell he's been bored out of his mind.
Okay, so we're on Colbert now. I think that means we're done. Are we done?
I think
we're done. Okay. Let's make one final social rundown, and then I have two things to say.
Oh no, I'm scared.
And then we're gonna end it. So, website
nerdly.net. Oh man, I messed up on that one.
Okay, website
nerdly.net.
Twitter
@NerdlyPodcast.
Facebook
@NerdlyPodcast.
And Instagram
@NerdlyPodcast.
You can find us on Periscope through our Twitter account @NerdlyPodcast, and
YouTube as well, Nerdly Podcast.
Yeah, our YouTube
all
channel.
All of those with no E, NRDLY.
And something else, too, we have our mailing list. If you want to keep up to date with some of the cool stuff that we're going to be doing, like, get news on what we're doing for episode 7. Whoop, whoop. And all of our other cool meetups that we've got
we will be
works.
at our local theater for episode 7, which if any of you guys know us, I'm sure which theater we're talking about. We will release details as we get closer to release, but we want a big group. We want to have some fun at this premiere.
Exactly. It's going to be a blast. So sign up for our mailing list. We won't spam you, promise. We've not even sent an email out yet, besides the, hey, welcome to the list email for everybody that's joined. But go ahead and sign up for it, and we'll send you news on our meetups that we're going to be doing. So that was thing number 1 I wanted to mention. Thing number 2 is be on the lookout, and this is another reason to sign up for the nerdly.net mailing list, is we're going to be releasing information about our brand new, super fresh Nerdly app.
Oh,
iOS
man.
and Android compatible.
No way.
Nerdly app.
No way.
And I've seen demos of it. I've seen it live and in person, and this sucker is sweet.
It's magic.
It's everything that you get on the Nerdly website. You can listen to the podcast. You can listen to them in the background. You can, do whatever you want. It's fantastic.
It's got our
social
Instagram
media
feeds,
It's got our
everything.
YouTube videos. It's got Twitter and Facebook. You can view everything Nerdly related right there in the app. It's a one-stop shop for all Nerdly stuff. Coming soon, and we'll let you know when it's out. But you got to sign up for the mailing list to find out information on it first.
You have to. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really.
Tell your friends.
It's going to be fantastic. Yes, tell all your
family.
friends. Tell everybody. Go to work and rave about it. Go rave to customers.
Something else you can do for us, if you don't mind, it would be ever so nice, is rate and review the podcast on iTunes. Tell everybody if you love it. Tell everybody you love it. If you like it, tell everybody you like it. If there's stuff we need to work on, hit us up at comments@nerdly.net, and you can let us know what you think. If there's a topic you want to hear about or anything, let us know. And be watching the Facebook and the Twitter for more information on the Colbert Kirby Tolkien Nerd Off that we're going to get started.
Oh, my God. I'm so excited.
Social media, all-out blitz. Tolkien Kirby Colbert Nerd Off.
Let's make it happen, boys.
Thank you guys so much. We'll see you later.
See you guys.